Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athlete trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. For this week's story episode, we are going to be talking about one of the most true statements in all of athletic training.
What is that?
Athletic training is about being adaptable.
My motto.
And you know what? It is a very true statement.
It is. Athletic training honestly changes all the time.
All the time.
And that's why we love it.
I mean, it's the nature of just athletics too.
True.
Like it's just everybody in athletics feels the adaptability aspect of it.
I feel like when we're telling people about our jobs, one of the biggest selling points that I tell people is that, you never know what each day brings.
Yeah, that's true. I thought you were being sarcastic with the selling point of, schedules changes, not a 9 to 5.
I mean, yes, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you don't I
like the just kind of different hours.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
like,
nice.
It's never boring.
Oh, goodness, it's never boring.
So this actually was my motto, starting this fall. This was my motto. Being an athletic trainer is about being adaptable.
See, you do it way
all the time.
You do it way better than I do.
Well, because it's my motto.
It is. It's your motto.
So this was a request by one of my students, Lizette, who, shout out. She just graduated, so congrats, Lizette. Super exciting. So she wanted to hear about how other athletic trainers have needed to be adaptable.
Oh, I'm sure there are a lot of experiences of that.
I'm not sure if she was being serious or not, but we just rolled with it, right?
Well,
We're being adaptable.
We made it serious.
We got so many one-sided poll questions.
Oh, I'm sure.
I started with, have you ever had to work a game last minute? 90% of people said yes.
Interesting. I'm just trying.
Why have you?
No, I'm just trying to think of the context. Like, what do we define as last minute too?
That's a good question.
Right?
Whatever you define as last minute.
Man, now I'm trying to think.
You really have not had to work a game last minute?
Not that I can really remember.
Okay, so you're part of the 10%. That's pretty interesting.
I am part of the 10%. I'm trying to think. When have I had to just all of a sudden cover a game last minute? Oh, no, I have. I've had to, when a coworker, just not feeling well, couldn't make it in
right.
game.
Right.
All right, I'd have to cover. Okay, I have.
Okay. And you had to be adaptable.
That's right.
How about, have you ever had a game canceled last minute? I feel like that's kind of easier.
Yeah.
That was a 97% yes.
Yeah, I've had that.
I've had games that have been canceled that have not been... Well, I feel like every athletic trainer's had this, that I don't know about. Not anymore. Our coaches are really good. But when I first got certified,
yes.
I've had games just get canceled and then no one would tell me.
And didn't you have games...
I'd have to drive all the way there.
Yeah. And didn't you have a game, change venues and no one told you?
Yep. So I showed up to a venue and... It was at a different spot, so got back in my car.
And booked it.
Luckily, it was, you get there early for basketball. So.
Yeah. Adaptable.
Our first story is anonymous. Usually weather-related, but there was a time it snowed in North Carolina, which is not common, and no one told me practice was canceled. I drove to work to find out that it was.
Ooh. That's nice to know. Sweet, no practice day, I can go home. But man, you had to get up, drive through the snow, and then to get there and find out.
Right.
I didn't have to do this.
Right.
That one probably stings because of the snow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because, if it wasn't for that, if it's just any other reason, it'd be oh, well, okay, cool. Right? It was a little bummer. I could have been home, but the snow, I think, really kind of...
That's what I was thinking.
Kicks you in the giblets.
We got a couple people about weather-related, fire and air quality.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about the fire aspect.
Would you rather have to work a game last minute?
Okay.
Or have your game canceled last minute and no one tell you?
I'd rather have that one.
Well, okay, yes. I feel like that in my head it was like super obvious. But also like you've had to work a game last minute that like, oh, I guess both of them kind of have to do with communication issues.
Yeah.
I was going to say because like no one telling you about it being canceled last minute is kind of
it'd be frustrating.
sucky.
But
I mean, it is nice that you have like time.
Yeah. But it's also on the bummer of like if you're covering a game last minute and it's not your team, like especially if no one communicated it, then you're stressed because you're like, oh well, I gotta get there and I gotta do all my normal stuff and then try to mimic how whatever their athletic trainer does. Like you're trying to make it a smoother transition for
anyone's game though. Like if you've had to work a game last minute that your coach didn't tell you about or your AD,
I would still probably take the last minute cancel. I mean, I could make it work with a last minute like game if it was my team, right? Because they would be pretty understanding. But like you gotta think of you didn't plan on that game, so everything that you planned that day is now out the window.
That's true,
and that is a bummer, especially if you're like, dude, I was gonna like go home at this time.
Yeah, that's. I did used to work on. Through a performing arts contract, I did a cruise line that I would not go on the cruise, but I mean, I would go on the ship, but only when they were docked. So like they would set sail and then they'd come back, they'd dock for the day. And then I would go in and have performers come and whoever was on the ship, I'd have like appointment based for them like throughout the day. And then I would, leave so then they could set sail again.
Yes, but you also got to eat the food, right?
I did. It was a good gig.
That's pretty dope.
Yes, it was a good gig. I had like lobster for lunch like every time.
Oh darn. Lobster for
anyway,
lunch.
So the cruise line, I had to drive 2 hours to get to the cruise. Well, then also sometimes like when I lived down there, then it was closer.
Yeah.
So depending on when it was. So I'd have to drive and then I'd get there and sometimes they would do like a total lockdown on the cruise and then no one could get on the cruise. And so then they would just cancel the whole day.
Yeah.
So they actually said that they appreciated having an athletic trainer.
Yeah.
Because the athletic trainers who they worked with were the most adaptable.
Makes sense.
And they said that anytime that they had worked with a different healthcare profession, they always had like some sort of complaint or some sort of frustration, or they weren't as easily go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like the athletic trainers were always the ones who were able to like roll with the punches.
Because you know what? When you've been around athletics, it's par for the course.
I mean, really.
It really is.
I was going to leave this to the end, but we did have someone say, this is the job that you apply for.
It really is. You volunteer, well, not volunteer, but you voluntarily go into working with this environment.
Right. Do you want to read this one by Anna?
Yes. Anna says, always prep for changes. Plan on always being at work 1 hour longer than I should. We get into this knowing we work a job where things come up. We go through years of clinicals for a reason. This isn't like some job where you apply and then it turns out to be the complete opposite of what you signed up for. You just spent 2 years doing it. We need to stop kidding ourselves here. I think a lot can be said about setting boundaries, though. I set plenty myself after being in this profession for over a decade. There also is sometimes value in being flexible when it comes to wanting to negotiate new contract terms and the like.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
We do talk about kind of like the difference between like go with the flow and just letting people walk all over you.
Yes.
And also being a stick in the mud and not being flexible.
Yes. Yes. There is a balance. There are some things that you're like, no, this is ridiculous.
Right.
Oh yeah, we might get to this at some point, but yeah, you know what? More last minute adaptable things I've had to deal with in the past. We've had like some changes to where like, hey, we were told we were not traveling, and then all of a sudden plans change. Oh, you're traveling. You're like, wait,
what do you mean by traveling?
like traveling with like a team. Like we were told, hey, we're not going to have someone travel. And all of a sudden, team wanted us to travel.
What do you mean by travel? Like my travel is like down the street.
Oh, this was interstate travel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the problem was like, hey, we game plan that we're not losing a staff member.
Oh.
So now it changes how like the flow of the room would go. So yes, adaptable. So yeah, I feel that.
So speaking of travel, I did ask about being adaptable while traveling because I feel like that is one of the most stressful things. Like even if you're adaptable at work, I feel like being adaptable while traveling is like something completely different.
Yeah. I mean, travel itself isn't like, I don't know. I was never really that stressed with traveling, but the adaptable part does make it stressful. So,
do you like stress like in general though?
Fair enough. But I think the question that I feel that's coming will be stressful.
Have you ever not had something like your kit, your tape, your table, etc. available to you as you were traveling?
Yes.
Like it was lost or forgotten?
Yes.
How did you adapt?
I just went without, man. I was such a bummer. So like my example for this was when we traveled for cross-country regionals. I would bring a table for treatments because I didn't want the kids like on one of my beds.
Yeah, no thanks.
In the hotel room. So I'd always bring the table, which, I'd already get looks like why are you bringing the table for cross-country? I'm like, dude, my treatments, man.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why people have a problem with that.
Plus, the school's flipping the bill. We're all right.
Cross country is all like soft tissue.
Exactly. I need my table.
Right.
I gotta work comfortable.
Yeah.
All right. So took it up. So we land at where regionals are at. We landed. The table did not land. Yep. The table was in Nebraska. Well, we were in Washington, I think it was. I think we were in Washington. Oh, yeah. So I got to go through that fun experience of trying to locate this table because treatment tables are not cheap, like portable tables. So, well, let's not lose this thing. And there was a chance maybe I can get it in the evening. Nope. The table got to the hotel at like 4 a.m. So didn't get to use it for treatments. So I brought it to the cross-country meet, set it up, and I said, everybody's using this table today. I brought it up just for treatment, so we are doing this today. So some kids were like, oh, do you mind if I just lay on this? I was like, no, you go right ahead, buddy. You use this table.
We're going to get our use out of this.
We spent, I think it was like $75 or something to get that table there. So
holy crap.
Yeah, because it's oversized.
Oh.
So, yes, we are getting the use out of this damn table.
So I think you'll really appreciate these next stories then. From Sica G. She said, super complicated and long, but bear with me. While working gymnastics at a D1 university, our team made it to NCAA regionals.
Nice.
We flew out Thursday, but we weren't able to get everyone on one flight.
Of course not.
Yeah. So the team and head coach were on one flight while the staff were on another. The staff was supposed to go from city A to city B to our destination, which is city C. Okay, so...
Oh, no.
Okay. But our second leg got canceled.
Oh, no.
We were rerouted for an additional 3 legs to still make it there Thursday night. So then it looks like city B to D to E... and then back to City C, which is the destination city.
Oh, thank goodness.
Unfortunately,
oh no.
City E, so the 5th one, to City C, their destination, also end up getting canceled. So they had to stay the night in their 5th city.
Oh, that sucks.
Meanwhile, the team had already made it to the destination, City C.
Well, okay. At least like the athletes made it there. Right. Because at least like, yeah, because I feel like, okay, the staff, the adults in the room could like, hey, they'll be all right.
Right.
I feel like if you had the athletes going through this, oh no.
There's more. We then had to book new flights on a different airline because absolutely nothing was available on our original airline to take us Friday morning from City E to City F.
Oh, we're on City F?
To City C, the destination city.
Oh my goodness.
We finally landed at our destination 36 hours later and headed straight to practice. Airline lost my bags. So on top of all this,
I'd be so fired up.
Including my 2 separate med bags.
Oh, I'd be irate.
I had already looped in the host AT to let her know I may or may not make it in time based on flights, so she taped and prepped my whole team for practice on Friday. She then let me use their ATR and supplies for team treatments after practice, and then again for taping the meet on Saturday. She was seriously the most gracious host, and I was so appreciative. The original airline found and returned my bags to me about a week later.
Oh, at least you got them back.
Right.
Like, that'd be such a bummer if they're just like, don't know where they are.
They just end up on one of those like auction luggage places.
Oh my gosh. You know what the bummer is too? Because that's a postseason event. The NCAA handles all that travel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they pay for that. They set it up and everything.
Dang.
And hence why probably so many connections and why not everyone was on one flight.
Dang.
Dude, that's tough.
Yeah, I've never really had to deal with that. I also don't really fly that much. I've flown I've flown more as a student than I have certified.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever flown with a team certified. I mean, I don't really.
You're right.
Everywhere we go is within California, so.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not going to be a flight.
Right. We just
and plus it's
nice long bus trips.
Plus, like your fall, your chunk is football. That'd be a lot of guys to get plane tickets for.
Well, I did a football trip.
Yeah, but I mean, like now, like at the community college level.
Right.
Yeah, because you did. That was your travel trip.
Mm-hmm. So Sica also says, when I was a GA with football, our undergrad students would pack for away trips and I would oversee it. I had a full detailed packing list. One trip they had to pack while I was in class because the semi-truck had to be loaded. We went to set up the field on game day and turns out the students had packed the water bottles, but no lids.
Oh, that's going to be useful.
I checked the packing list and they had even signed it off.
Oh, no.
Even better. I was pissed.
Of course.
I had to go ask the home team to wrangle up any extra lids for us. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah, for sure.
They were able to find like 24 lids for us. We traveled with like 48 bottles. So we ended up having all the other bottles filled, and then we just switched the lid onto the full bottle when it needed to be refilled. Icing on top, though, or I guess the worst part, was we were a Powerade school, and the home team was a Gatorade school. So we had blue bottles with orange lids.
Oh,
it looked so dumb.
Yeah, I feel that.
I ran into the home team's assistant AT a few times over the next couple of years, and he would tease me about it every time. It wasn't my fault.
Nope. Yeah, but you were in charge of them. I feel that. You have to own it. I know.
Dude, sometimes like especially because you have to kind of take on what the students do.
Oh, yeah.
You have to.
You got to wear it.
Right. One time when I was a volunteer student, I wasn't in charge of packing. I don't remember what I was supposed to be doing, but the master students were the ones who were packing. And I had a list of something that I put with the list of the packing list. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why the master students decided not to look at the packing list to pack.
Yeah.
But essentially they forgot all the emergency equipment.
Yeah.
And so they got in so much trouble, and I got in trouble because I covered the packing list with a different list. It was like, come on, I put the list together. Why are you packing without a list?
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
See, in this case, right, that's why you send the students over to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right, they messed up. Hey, you got
to own it.
You better go ask for some lids.
Right.
That's what happened to us when we were students. If we forgot something in football, oh yeah.
Oh, totally.
We would have to go ask the host AT.
Oh yeah, you got nice preceptors if they
take the heat for you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that wasn't me. It's not what I got.
I think I take the heat for my students sometimes.
If it's something like that they actually forgot and it was lids, oh no.
Well, yeah, if it's something
I'd be like, hey, nah, you go.
Or I'd go with them.
No.
No?
Nope, I'd send them over.
I guess it depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, hey,
What are you gonna do?
You should. Yeah. What are you gonna do? You better go ask.
Oh, that's my favorite question to ask. What are you gonna do?
And then you hit the deer in the headlight. But at least it's just lids. It's not like the emergency equipment. Like that would be.
Right. That'd be sucky. It was sucky.
Like this, you can poke fun at and like, oh yeah, I forgot the lids.
Right.
If it was the emergency equipment, okay, yeah, that's a little bit bigger of a deal.
Okay, so kind of the bread and butter of our profession is treating a condition and then having the diagnosis being changed.
Okay. Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of a working diagnosis.
Hey, that's why you have your differentials.
Exactly. So I did ask, how did people adapt to that?
Okay.
The first one we got was actually interesting because it's almost like that quote, like if you walk like a duck and talk like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah.
This one is like not.
So it's not a duck.
Do you want to read it?
Yes, this one's by Anonymous. I had a foreign exchange student from Spain. She played basketball. She was reading the concussion info poster I have hung up in the athletic training room and told me she was having a lot of those symptoms that it lists on the poster. I took her through a SCAT-6 assessment, and she had a symptom score of 32. Had memory deficits. VOMS testing was very aggravating. Had concentration deficits. And we could not even complete the BEST testing because she was so dizzy.
That really sucks.
I mean, that's a bummer. She had no memory of being hit in the head, which could be concerning.
Right.
You don't remember getting hit in your head.
Right.
I called her host's parents and explained the situation. They were able to get her in to see her pediatrician the next day, where blood work was done, and it showed she was very anemic and very deficient in several essential vitamins and minerals due to the change in her diet from now living in America. She started taking several supplements, eating more beans/veggies, and started feeling much better in 48 hours. Hey, 48 hours, that's pretty quick.
I know, seriously.
That's pretty good.
Honestly, it's kind of crazy that, like, it's actually really nice that the blood work showed that, because there are probably so many other things that could have been happening that, when you have someone who just has symptoms that just can't be explained.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like I've had an athlete who has a really like unstable knee.
Uh-huh.
Like, I can't remember if this athlete's had a previous ACL tear or not, but they went in and scoped the knee, and like they did an MRI, and MRI came back unremarkable. So we're like, oh, we're gonna scope it. Did a scope and didn't even have to clean anything up, and they were like, oh, your knee is like solid, but
interesting.
She's still like unstable.
Interesting.
Right, and it's like, oh,
that's fascinating.
Right.
Huh.
So, I mean, they had the plan of going in and reconstructing the ACL, or like, if it was a little lax, like, it just, I don't know. There are sometimes like things like that. So then it's actually nice to hear a story where it was able to be figured out and then resolved,
Yeah.
So this next one from Mariah O. I was wondering why a soccer player with peroneal tendonitis wasn't getting better. I found out she was doing additional cardio by running 6+ miles on her own after practices.
Of course.
We then had to educate her that more was not always better. We taught her how to interval train instead, so there's less miles on her legs, and addressed her nutrition to make sure she was getting enough calories to support the amount of activity that she was doing. She got better in a week after that.
Nice.
Yeah, another quick one.
Yeah, yeah, that is nice.
What I like about these two stories is that they talk about like adding in nutrition and talking about like things other than just the physical aspect that I feel like focus on so much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. More is not always more.
Nah.
Yeah, but no, that's a good thing to kind of find out. Okay, well, like what's going on? Because like they don't know, right? Like these athletes, they're just like, oh well,
that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I always like to use the analogy. Okay, we took 2 steps forward. we want to stay 2 steps forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if like rehab's going to get you 2 steps forward, but going back to practice way too fast and going back to doing extreme activity way too fast and doing things on your own way too fast and all this stuff is 2 steps back.
Yep.
Or 3 steps back, and then we're just making negative progress.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right.
Always forward progress.
They know when I look at them, I'm like, 2 steps forward.
I know. I'm sorry, Miss Sandra.
Do you want to read the next one by AG?
Yes. AG says, I treated a women's basketball post player for MCL sprain. She saw the doc and everything, and we were finally in the return to sport portion of her return. Her knee kept buckling and giving out on her when working on non-contact post work. We re-referred her to doc, and her physician ordered an MRI. It confirmed an ACL tear. Dude. Dang.
I feel like I've had this before.
Yeah.
With a basketball athlete, actually. Keep going.
Back to square one. Well, actually, just, hey, we did a hell of a prehab. Yeah,
that's a really good.
That is a good way to look at it. Yeah,
I really like that.
It was my first post-op as a newly certified AT, so I was initially in disbelief. I did the best with the resources at the time I had. Given we were only a group of 3 to 4 ATs for our 15 D1 sports.
Holy crap.
Holy smokes. Unfortunately, I left before she made her full return to play, but she's doing well and playing overseas now. Looking back, I was honestly so annoyed because of other things in the situation, specifically my head AT at the time. My athlete's injury occurred during a game, and I went to do my on-court assessment. I talked to her quickly and was going to start my quick evaluation. Before I could even touch her knee, the head AT was there rushing me to get her up and off the court and scolding me for being too slow. Oof, that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of missed that golden time for a true lockman when it acutely happened. It's part of the reality of being a professional, knowing where you can improve, but also knowing everyone is human and people who are higher up can improve too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Just because they're higher up doesn't mean they're right.
Exactly, that's true.
Even preceptors do.
Even preceptors do, that's right. Hey, we're all just trying to learn. We're all just doing our best out here.
Mm-hmm. I had a basketball athlete who had no mechanism that he knew of or that we knew of.
Okay.
And his knee kept swelling on him during practice, but he wasn't limited. Like, he could do everything. His knee was not unstable. It didn't feel like he didn't feel unstable. We didn't.
Okay.
Like, we all of our tests were solid. So, his knee just kept swelling. So we would do things like to control the swelling and, pre and post and during.
Yeah.
And then, I ended up referring him to our physician, and our physician was just, let's get an MRI. I feel like the MRI, I feel like he was like, well, if he's playing, then let's just keep him playing. It was a while back, so I'm trying to remember that. I feel like the MRI we didn't get until almost the end of season. I'm trying to remember why. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an ACL tear, and I want to say, we were treating for meniscus.
Yeah.
So we kind of just thought it was meniscus. ACL tear and meniscus damage and chondral damage.
Oh, man.
Right.
That knee was going through it.
Right. And I think it's because the ACL was,
the knee relied on all the other structures to help stabilize.
Right.
That's actually a kind of a good story because, I just this past weekend, I think I was talking to the students about how, like in the real world, it's not always presenting like the book, and that is exactly how these things don't present like the book, right? Like the book tells you ACL, they're going to complain of instability and swelling and all this stuff, but there's someone who didn't have any complaints of instability,
right?
All right, so and I've seen that too. I've had a couple basketball players who didn't really complain that their knee was unstable. without their ACL. That's crazy.
And it all just depends on if it's just a single, like a just ACL, or if there's other things involved, like the MCL.
Also, how their muscles are now stabilizing their knee to where maybe they don't feel the instability because now their muscles are like, I got this.
Right. Have you ever had a setback in rehab?
I mean, yeah, I feel like right, someone's doing well, and then hey, maybe we went a little too kind of progressed a little too fast, or like same thing as the previous story. Oh, they did too much on their own one day, even though I told them not to. Right, like stuff like that, like little stuff. I don't think I can't think of a time that I've had like a major like setback.
I've had an athlete who was completely cleared from ACL, like literally completely cleared. It was that same week, and he went to take off to do a sprint and felt a pop.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was a setback in rehab. I would say that was a re-injury.
Yeah.
But that was like the first thing that came to mind. But this question got 100% of people who responded said that yes, they had a setback in rehab, and it had over 100 votes.
Yeah. All right, we've all had it.
So if that helps your brain next time you have a setback in rehab, just remember
it happens. And remember, like the one thing that I always have to think about, and like, you know, what I tell students is like it's not, or like what I tell student athletes too, it's like it's not linear, right? Like not everyone's like linear, and they're just always going to get better, right? It's like a curve, and like sometimes there's people respond faster than others, and some just have a hard time responding.
You know what I was thinking about the other day that actually kind of helped me with this idea is when we are working with our athletes on a more long-term rehab, we are really getting to see a lot more of those time points and those trends. So we're going to see a lot more of that. Like, it's not going to be better every single day.
Yes.
Unlike like a different healthcare professional, such as like a physical therapist who might see them every other day or twice or 3 times a week, or maybe once a week, depending. Like, our role is going to be a lot different than their role, because of what we're seeing, and like we don't necessarily have to change what we do every single day, because we're seeing them so often. Yeah. So, I don't know. It just made me kind of look at it differently.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
Because we're really we're gonna be doing a lot more of like the pain management as well, like the daily symptom management. Yeah. I would say, rather than like other healthcare professionals who might not. They're going like more big picture.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of looking at it.
So we are going to see more setbacks, I would say.
Yeah. Because
more
like
plateaus.
you said, we're going to see the bad days more.
Right.
Than like the provider that's seeing them once, twice, 3 times a week, or once every other week. Right. Right. Like they're not going to, the chance of them seeing the bad days a little bit less compared to when we see them every day.
Mm-hmm. So we have an anonymous one talking about how to manage setbacks. I listen to what the athlete is telling me. Every rehab is going to go through a plateau. It's about, do you as the practitioner have the patience and knowledge to work through that with the kid?
Yeah, it's true. Patience is the key word.
Patience is not something that everyone has.
No.
Me included.
It's fair. But it's also hard too, like when you have like a million athletes that you're dealing with, and when there's a setback, right, it takes more time that you have to focus on, and like, okay, well, what's going on? Why are we having the setback? Or why aren't you responding?
Right.
And like then you get into this mode of just respond.
Also, like
just get better.
What specifically is it? Like, was it one specific exercise, or is it just the combination of them, or like what?
And then it just hits you with the just get better.
Right. So I did ask, like I said, that we were going to talk about at the beginning. I did ask about rigidity or go with the flow,
Mhm.
like what kind of makes you more an athletic trainer. Literally right in the middle. We had some people who were like really on the side of like they're more rigid or strong-willed, and then some people really on the side of go with the flow, and then some people who put themselves right in the middle, and it just turns out we had a pretty even normal distribution if you're into stats.
Oh wow, really? You're bringing in the distribution curve, huh?
It's probably the last time I will, but
And so stats had that kind of an impact on you, huh?
apparently. Which one would you say you are?
I think I'm in the middle. Because there's stuff I'm go with the flow, but then there's stuff that I'm pretty rigid to.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is for consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I can't do this. Like, if it's something that if I can't do it for every team, then I'm not going to do it. Because that's not fair.
Being equitable.
It's being equitable. Right? It's trying to provide a very fair environment instead of why does this team get that?
Mm-hmm.
I hate that question. Because you don't know what's going on exactly. But
no, it's about me.
yeah, exactly. So, I would say right in the middle. Because there are some stuff that I'm like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've practiced long enough. It's athletics.
Right.
When things run behind, when things get canceled, things get scheduled. Yeah, there's frustrations because depending on how coverage is, well, now that kind of messes up coverage and stuff like that. But it's just I'm not losing sleep over it.
Right. I'm definitely a pick your battles kind of person.
Oh, it's so true. I think you have to go in.
That used to be my motto before being an being an athletic trainer is about being adaptable. It's about pick your battles.
It's true. Which hill do you want to die on today?
Just can't die on them all.
Yeah. Right. And you got to pick and it's a good point. You got to pick and choose when you're really going to have that fight.
Mm-hmm. You want to read this one from Megan L?
Yes. Megan L says, I definitely used to not be as go with the flow as I am now. I expect change, and I'm happy when it doesn't change. I learned hardcore in grad school that there's no point in getting mad over something you can't control. I'm a happier person because of it. My boss in grad school led me to realize this change in mindset. I would go into his office and vent about coaches, players, schedules, etc. And he would always ask me, why are you mad? I feel like I ask my basketball team that all the time. They start yelling and stuff, and I'm like, why are you mad?
I could see that.
Why are we always yelling? Megan says, I'd answer, well, because so-and-so did this. And he'd reply, what can you do about that? Megan would sigh, nothing. Him, again, why are you mad? And then he'd talk to me about letting the little things go and choosing your battles. Hey!
Oh, yeah.
There it is. My grad school athletic department was a shit show. So there were a lot of frustrating days. Yeah, that happens. I 100% burned out in my first 2 months there. So I had to learn by fire to let things go. That's true.
Easier said than done.
It is a lot easier to say let things go than to actually physically do it. But once you do figure that out of just I'm not going to use my energy to stress over that. Mm-hmm. It does help. Like that mindset shift of being able to just be like, you know what, I am not going to let this bother me today.
Right. I feel like there's a trend. I feel like most people start out more like rigid or like not being able to go with the flow. Or I shouldn't say not be able to. More like not want to.
Yeah.
And then as they like go in further into the profession, I feel like they become more go with the flow.
Yeah, and I think some of it makes sense. Like when you're newly certified, right? You want to set the tone. You want to be like, hey,
this is how it is.
Yeah, this is how I do it. Right? So I can kind of see it.
Right.
That makes sense. And plus, it is always easier to go to lighten up.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, hey, you started out like, and then all of a sudden now you're trying to be strict and like. Right. I think you know I think that transition is a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. Right? I think it's easier to be like, okay, we're going to back off just a hair.
Mm-hmm. Now I hear from the other end of the spectrum. We have an anonymous one. I'm strong-willed now because I've just been run over by too many coaches taking advantage of my kind nature. And this is another good point because I feel like this is like, and maybe because I used to be really rigid, and each year I feel like I am more and more go with the flow.
Yeah.
I never ever thought I was going to be a go with the flow person, but I feel like every once every year gets
once you get comfortable, right?
Right, I think that's really what it is. It's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? No, I think it's a pick your battles thing.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I think I realized that, and we'll talk more about this, but picking your battles, and you guys have heard me talk about just watching the refs and seeing how they respond to coaches.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
But anyway, Anonymous says there is a reason why coaches are first aid and CPR certified. If you can't plan and communicate, that's not on me. That's on you as a coach.
Which I mean, that's true.
Absolutely. This world has become a world of immediacy, and this falls right in that category, and it needs to stop. Weather is one thing, but respect me enough as a colleague to communicate with me at the first discussion of change rather than, oh, by the way, we changed this. It's disrespectful and a waste of my time.
Snaps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel that. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, hey, if coach is doing this and they don't let me know, hey, well, then obviously it wasn't that important for me to know that.
Right. But also, I feel like when we talk about coaches, I also have to always take the perspective of what they're thinking in our eyes. Same thing, though. If we forget to tell them that their athlete came in and their star athlete came in and, they're might be questionable for the game or, it's communication is a two-way street. And I'm not letting coaches off the hook. However, sometimes they do have to, depending on your policy and your institution and what's going on, sometimes they have to let a lot of people know. So sometimes it's just a helpful reminder to just be like, hey, can you include me in...
It's just one more name.
Right.
It's one more email.
Right.
One more phone number.
Right. Because if you just expect them to not include you, then, you're kind of saving yourself a lot of stress.
Yeah. I think also too, I don't know how common this is anymore, but I think being on because I feel like teams all have group messages. Being also on that group message, I feel like that helps, right? Because
some teams don't like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have any teams group messages anymore. Some other colleges I used to.
Yeah. Right. So I wonder how that has helped too.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they do, right, they have a whole team one. So when they make changes, right, they text that group message. If you're in it, boom.
Right.
You already get the
I just asked the
feedback.
team manager.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. I'll either ask the team manager or the captains.
Mm-hmm.
Because captains usually know.
Right. And then they only have one person to tell. Whereas the coaches will, they have to tell the AD and the dean and the equipment person and the each person that's involved in.
But I think that's where some of that frustration also comes from, is if that's the case, because again, you're right, they do have a lot of people they have to ask, but then they shouldn't complain if they forgot someone.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? They shouldn't be like, oh, well, you guys aren't. Whoa, hey.
Right.
You never told me.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the issue comes from, because I've seen that too, where hey, they're not told, they didn't like how something ended up, and it's just like, oh man, gosh, can't read your mind, man. You gotta help me out.
Right.
I've seen that.
This kind of goes into the next thing. Gem from Jen. She talks about picking your battles and how things have changed.
I wonder what the action item is.
Oh, we're doing an action item?
I'm just saying, it seems like the theme about picking your battles is coming up.
Right. So
which, again, is a good one.
It is. So Jen says, Your battles will change as your boundary lines will change. The hill you die on in your first year will be a running joke in your later years.
That's so true.
Case in point, it was my first year in a new job, and I was told that I didn't order cups for the games and practices. Someone else did that. Well, I saw I was running low on cups, and I asked this person no less than 3 times, and they still didn't order the cups. We had a double header for basketball that day, and I was very concerned that we did not have enough cups. So I asked the person, "Did you order the cups?" He nonchalantly said, "I'll get it next week." That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I lost my mind. I kicked open the door to my office. One of my coaches, who I almost hit with the door, asked, "Everything okay, Jen?" I immediately went on a 10-minute rant about effing cups and how I didn't understand why it was so hard to do that, blah, 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 blah. Until this coach retired, every time I would get upset about something, he would ask me, "Where are the effing cups?" It's very funny now, but it was not funny then. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from my athletic director that really put things into perspective for me was that even though a coach's action may seem personal, it's really not against you as a person. The dumb stuff they do is because they hyper-focus and have tunnel vision about winning, but it doesn't reflect on you as a person or an athletic trainer. They would do this to any athletic trainer because they want to win. It still isn't the right thing to do, but it helped me a lot to see that it wasn't a personal attack. It was just that particular coach being foolish.
That is a good perspective to think about it like that. Hey, because again, that's going to start, if you pick every battle based on a coach's reaction to things, right?
Gosh.
You're going to have a stressful career.
Right.
All right. But on the flip side, I do have to say, this is the frustrating thing. Here comes the soapbox about sports, that we have made behavior like that acceptable.
Okay. I have a caveat to that, though. We have made toddler behavior acceptable in some sports.
Yes.
However, even coaches who don't yell and scream and I've had plenty of coaches who don't yell and scream, but they're still disappointed with an athletic trainer's action.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why you got to really put into perspective, if you are the coach and you are even if you're playing a board game, just take the people out of it, right?
Yeah.
You're playing a board game and you're trying to win this board game. I mean, I don't know how competitive you are, but this
in this house
really rings true for me. You're trying to win, and all of a sudden someone comes up and takes something that you perceive in your mind that you need to win.
Yeah.
That's really frustrating.
100%. It's not saying that they have to be excited about the decision. Right, we can all understand, hey, this is a sensitive subject when they get hit with the bad news.
Right.
Right. It's the ones that can't see that we're all on the same team,
Well, things that take away my chances of winning
yes,
are really hard to see.
Yes.
That they're on my team.
And that's the thing, is you don't have to sit there and be happy about the decision. Right. And I've had coaches where it's just hey, here's the bad news. They're not happy. And that's our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit there and okay, let's move on. Let's pretend we're all okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because I know now's not the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Same thing if we got bad news.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We wouldn't want necessarily just someone just coming up and chatting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But it is, like you said, it's the quote unquote toddler, the temper tantrum kind of idea. Right. Obviously not temper tantrum. That's
right.
That's sounding demeaning, but that idea that people would have of how a coach would behave in certain situations.
Right. I mean, you also, I like to just put it in perspective, how many times I'm annoyed with a coach.
Yeah.
How many times coaches are annoyed by an athletic trainer.
Yeah. And you know what? It is I think one thing is coaches also have a job.
Mm-hmm.
They have a job to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And their job is, to get the most out of their athletes. Mm-hmm. Right. Obviously at certain levels, at all levels, right. They are trying to win, but there is different pressures at different levels about winning.
Right.
All right. But I think it's the the how do you work with like coworkers kind of thing, because at the end of the day, right, we are all coworkers, right? And if you took any other job and if you behaved in a certain way and someone gave you bad news, right, like how, like, where's that disconnect? That's right. I think that's what it's trying to kind of get at.
I haven't really had a disagreement with my coaches lately.
It's been a while.
Actually, in a while.
Yeah.
But luckily, I'm lucky. But my go-to is kind of like when someone's getting frustrated or we're not on the same page, or there's like some emotion coming out, just take a step back and take 3 seconds. Like 3 seconds before you, and not like 1, 2, 3, like 3 actual real life seconds. Pause and then respond, because you can't do your immediate response. It's gonna be sassy, and that's not gonna help, even though it might feel good.
One thing that I was taught that I've yet to pull out, maybe I should have pulled it out in the past, is from Mama Max. This is a good one from her. Is when coach is getting irate and just we're not having a conversation anymore. Is just, coach, I would love to talk to you or talk with you about this. Obviously, we're not in a spot to really talk about it. We can talk about it later. There you go.
That's a really good one. It's been a while. I feel like
I haven't had like arguments in a long time.
No, right.
Like I've had, again, I don't mind the questions.
Right.
At the end of the day, like
they should be asking questions.
100%. And I don't mind the questions. Like my biggest thing is when it's an argument.
Right.
Like, why are we arguing about this?
Well, also you have to understand like what they're coming into.
Yes.
If they're coming into this discussion not trying, like just trying to get their point across, then you got to you can't be on the defense.
Yeah. You
kind of just have to listen and hear them out, and then they'll be fine. But if they're coming in to understand, like I've had coaches who've come in asking me why I've made the decision that I've made, and I know if they're asking that question, then they're actually trying to understand.
Yeah.
I've had actually this is more recently. I've had a coach who literally came in frustrated and was trying to understand why I made the decision that I made, but did it in a way that was completely like, even though this coach was very frustrated, it was the approach. It was the way that this coach came in, and it was not confrontational. It was more of an understanding. And I think that people don't oftentimes go into conversations like that. And so that way, when I recognized, oh, this person's actually trying to understand, I can actually explain a little bit more, versus someone who's just coming in heated and you're just kind of like, okay, let me just listen to you. I know this is frustrating. I know, like, let me see what I can do, but I'm doing my best. And
so again, like that conversation kind of thing and arguments and stuff like that. Like one of my all-time favorite coaches that I've worked with would come in and like kind of have that quote unquote negotiating thing. All right. But the way it is approached, and obviously I obviously have some trust in what he's doing. Like I know he's not going to go off the wall and like do crazy things that he shouldn't be doing. Right. All right. So there is an element of trust, but it comes in with that, like, okay, like, hey, I need this person for this. What can we do? Right. And I'll say like, okay, well, you're probably looking about this long, and they'd be like, like, is there any way we can get them sooner? Yeah, why not? Right. Or like one of my favorite things was like, hey, I don't want them doing this or this. Oh, well, can they do this? Oh, you know what? Probably. Yeah, that sounds good, because like I'm not the coach. I don't know your drills. Right. So like I need an explanation, because they probably could do that. I just don't know the drill. Right. All right. So like, so it's not necessarily like, oh, what you say has to go. Right. If you have enough, like if it's approached the right way, and obviously if you trust that coach, right, you can actually have a conversation. Right. And there is some negotiation there. Like, okay, no, like they should be safe to do that. And
conversations are hard though.
Conversations are hard.
No one wants to do them.
No. But I
just want to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying we won. We won our conference championship that year. I'm just saying, so it works. But yeah, no. Right. So like I've been in that position where like, yeah, they try to push to get a little bit more, but it's not in an aggressive manner. It's just
right.
Like you said, trying to learn and like, okay, what can they do? Can they do this?
Mm-hmm.
So it is possible.
Right. But for those of you who don't have coaches who come in asking for understanding
and just come in and get upset.
Right. I feel like I just kind of like do a one like mic drop and then I kind of let them talk for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because and here's something that also changed my perspective too is like if they're coming in like that, there's nothing that I can say to change their mind.
Yes.
So I am not trying, that's not my goal of the conversation. My goal of the conversation is not to get them to understand either. It's just to let them get out what they need to get out, even if it's at me.
Yeah. But again, remember, it goes back to that one comment about, hey, letting that go, like if it seems personal.
Right. I think that is a really big factor in recognizing.
100%.
Because it has saved me a lot of stress. Now, have I walked away? Now, this is outside of athletic training. Have I walked away from someone recently who is
being difficult?
Yes, but I still know that it's not a personal attack. Like I'm walking away frustrated, yes, but I'm able to let it go a little bit more.
Well, you're also human, right? You don't have to just take it, right? You're going to be upset.
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with that.
I don't want people to listen to be like, oh, it's just a mindset change and then everything's happy and flowers and unicorns.
As my basketball athletes would say, it's all mindset.
Yeah, duh.
It's just a mindset.
Right. But I think it does allow you to move on a little bit better.
It does. You know what? You could even hit them with what we heard earlier today from just a kid on the sideline. Your mom taught you how to be a butt crack.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Hit a serious conversation with that one and see where that goes.
Yeah, that 5-year-old comeback. Have you ever had a clinical site and then had to change clinical sites? Have you ever had a student and then they changed sites? Like in the middle of your site?
Like just like it's predetermined that was happening or like...
No, surprise. Like just in the middle of the semester, they just had to change for some reason.
Okay, so it's like a surprise one, right? Because like currently with where I'm a preceptor for.
No, it like surprise. Like okay. How do you adapt to that?
Ooh,
Not planned things.
I've never had that.
Or like, have you had a student come in mid-semester like because they've had to change from a different site?
Oh.
So 47% of people actually said yes, and 53% of people said no.
That is the closest poll. This story. Story episode.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting.
Actually, I thought that was going to be more one-sided. I thought there weren't going to be too many people. Correct.
Oh.
And we have another anonymous one. This one is just talking about changing sites.
Yeah.
Another good gem, though. I, as a student, not me, this is the anonymous, had to change clinical sites in the middle of my senior year. Long story short, our football ATs were not great preceptors, and it created a toxic learning environment. Enough people complained that they ultimately pulled all students from that site and relocated. I ended up back with volleyball. I had been there my junior year, and I was thrilled. I tried to look at it as a learning experience. The school ended up doing an investigation, so we all got interviewed by the administration/athletic department. I basically told them that you're always going to have to work with people who are difficult or that you don't get along with. So I felt like I had gotten experience in that regard and how to deal with it. Obviously, everyone there had a different experience from one another. I was a senior student, so I'm not sure if I took more or less heat than others, but I didn't think that it was that bad while I was in it. I think that's the case for a lot of ATs that are in poor working environments, and they can't see how bad it was until they finally leave. I think that being in situations where they made me feel less than weirdly ended up making me more confident in myself, because I learned that if I don't sound like I know what I'm talking about, no one is likely to believe me. I carry that into my professional life too, and I think it's made me a better clinician.
That's true. Like I try to tell the students that too. Like even in a bad experience, bad rotation or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a learning opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
It is crappy to go through it,
Mm-hmm.
but you do learn a lot.
Right. I had some pretty crappy coaches before. I've left a job because of pretty crappy coaches.
Yeah.
Now, in the same situation now, I think I have different tools. Obviously it still sucks to work with crappy coaches, but I think I have different tools to work with those crappy coaches.
Yeah.
And part of that is from, I guess, failing to work with them in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Those experiences are still valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, at the end of the day, you now know what you don't like. You don't like to work in that environment.
Right. And you know how not to respond.
How not to respond and how to value yourself.
Right.
You now recognize that I am worth more than dealing with this.
Right. I am lately putting a lot of focus on not opening your mouth to put yourself in a situation that you don't need to put yourself in.
Yeah. It's true. I feel like it's like kind of like examples of like where you give more information than you really needed to, and now that information that you like already put out there can be interpreted a certain way, and now you're kind of like, no, like not like the reason we can't necessarily do that because of that, and like now you're over explaining even more. Like I kind of see it like that.
So a really good rule of thumb is do not explain unless people ask. And when they ask, just give them a mic drop moment and then stop.
Yeah.
If there's silence, do not keep going. Because especially if someone's coming at you with fire, they are going to take your words
and throw them right back at you.
Exactly.
Or they will try. They will find the weakness in what you said.
Right. You really don't need to tell people more than what the bare minimum is.
Yeah.
And obviously that's different for each person, but
yeah, it's true.
I think there's a fine balance because obviously you want to communicate a lot.
Yeah.
Over communication is good for some things, but
and there's also some
over communication is good, but over explanation is not. I think that's a good distinction.
Yeah, and also too, like there are just some things that are needs to know for certain people.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It's like one thing with like a communication piece I just thought about is just like those like again kind of talk about like adaptability, schedules, communication, and like even like injury processes like with arguments with coaches. And like one thing that I have seen that has helped is like at the beginning of the year when you do all your education stuff, right? Like, you know, I've been at places where we got all the coaches in a room, admin in a room. Each part of the department would kind of present on some kind of updates, right? Sports information would say their thing. Compliance would say their thing, right? So now all the coaches have to kind of like are getting updated on stuff, right? But for us, we do our aspect, right? And a lot of it is, hey, talking about concussion, right? And a lot of it is the return to play part. Even though it hasn't changed, I mean, obviously this newest update, there's slight variations, but before that, the return to play was pretty much the same for like a decade.
Right.
And multiple of their athletes have gone through that return to play. I would still get questions. Well, why is it taking so long? Why does it have to be this long? Right. So being able to actually sit down at the beginning of the year. Now, granted, are they going to remember that? No. But the more you talk about it, the more it has a chance to get ingrained. And that's their chance to ask questions in a non-heated environment where like, I really need this athlete. Right now, okay, here's the return to play. Here's our process to get here. Here's how someone gets cleared. Does anyone have questions?
Right.
Right. So again, like you said, that communication aspect I think is important. And save some frustration. Like I said, it's not going to be the answer to everything, and they're still going to be upset, and they're not going to remember, but it's still the effort that's there because someone might. And the more you talk about it, maybe one day they'll remember.
Yeah. I learned that you can work with just about anyone based on how you respond to people and not how... Obviously, there are some people who are going to just throw fire and you just can't throw fire back.
Yeah, sometimes fire doesn't work well with fire. You just have a bigger...
Most of the time.
Yeah, you just have a bigger fire.
Right.
And the wise words of Smokey, only you can prevent forest fires. Man, we tied in a lot this episode.
Yeah, full circle moment, huh?
Yeah, right to Smokey Bear.
We just kind of went with the flow. See what I did there?
And hence, this podcast is about being adaptable. It's true. Athletic training is about being adaptable.
It really is. I think I'm going to if I keep talking, I'm just going to over-explain it.
Are you sure it's not communicating?
No. I'm pretty sure it's over-explaining. You have any more adaptable situations?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, the lost luggage one. The lost table.
Gosh.
Well, the misplaced table wasn't lost.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's all I got.
I think things that are preventable are really hard for me to get over.
Yeah, that's tough to swallow.
Really hard for me to get over, but I think things that just kind of come out of nowhere are different.
Yeah.
Like, it's
athletics, man.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right. And knowing yourself. I will always advocate for knowing yourself.
Yep.
Thinks it makes you better.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So with that, we do every other episode as education or stories. This one was a story episode. Next week, we're going back to our education episodes. Thanks for adapting with us as we have a lot going on. We have some construction in our house.
As we've had to adapt the house.
We've had to adapt to a lot of things. Currently, as our podcast room is full of stuff from other rooms. So that's fun. If you guys are interested in submitting a story for a future episode, we do have an Instagram where you can check out our Instagram stories for prompts and other things that arise. You can email us. Everything down is in the show notes below. You got anything else, Randy?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.